Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Cuppa Chat with me, Gary. And I've been joined once again by a very, very special guest. I've been looking forward to speaking to this young gentleman for a long time. So, special guest, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Tommy J, and I'm thrilled to be here on Cup of Chat. I've watched them all, and I'm really excited to be on.
Oh, thank you, Tommy, for joining us. It's so nice to have you with us today.
It's good to be here, buddy.
Um, Now, as I say, I've been really hoping that you'd come and join us for a while now because you're one of these. So we see online is one of these up and coming stars of the Panto world. You're getting fantastic reviews every single season, and your knowledge as well and your skills that come with this genre of performing is just getting better and better every year from what we're reading and seeing.
I try, mate. It's a great thing, Panto. It's one of my favourite times of the year. It's the only time for me, except for I do a lot of cruise ships through the year, which you're not guaranteed, but sometimes you'll get people from different, sides of the world of entertainment. But Panto, you've got people from musicals to people like me, which is like a comedy turn, as you call me, or like an act. And you get West End performers, actors. It's just great, and you all come together for I don't know 2 months or whatever it is, and create this fantastic thing, and then you all go, and it's like you just go back to where you were. And I think it's just the most magical thing. And all families come, and especially I've been at Shrewsbury for I think 3 years now,
Mhm.
and you don't realise how much it means to people. I've
Yeah.
seen it. Me and Brad do pictures after the show, and they'll come down the stairs, get a picture, and they'll book their tickets for next year. And I think Brad's been there for ages. I think he's heading for 20 years now. And he'll be like, "Oh, Mary, I'll see you on, row whatever." And I thought, "Oh, it's just magical. It's so good."
Yeah, yeah, it's lovely, and we'll talk definitely more about that in a little bit. But how rude of me not to ask what drink you want for our cup of chat. I've got my mug here. I've gone for the typical water as I always do for cup of chat. But
Yeah.
Tommy, what's your go-to drink, especially in
I've got a
Panto
massive mug
season?
here
Oh,
of
nice.
coffee. I drink coffee a lot. It keeps me going up my act and my whole life. I'm really quick and I'm really energetic. So yeah, a lot of coffee.
Is it black coffee, white coffee? What do we
Near enough.
what's the
Just
Tommy J coffee?
well, it used to be like 3 sugars, loads of milk, the sweetest thing you could get. And then I did pantomime in Scunthorpe, and one day in the green room they had no milk, but everyone in Scunthorpe, or at least this Panto, drank just black coffee.
Right.
And at the time, I drank about 6 or 7 cups of coffee a day. So I was just like piling out these black coffees. So I have a little bit of milk now, but no sugar. So just a
Yeah.
little bit of milk.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. And if it keeps you going through those school shows and through those late evenings as well, what do you
Yeah.
think is worse? Just as we pick up on that, is it the early school shows or is it the later performances? I mean, you're probably used to the later ones because of the cruises and so on, but
Yeah. It depends really. I love every show in Panto, and I've really strong about no matter what time it is or who's in. Or one of my pet hates is when people say, "Oh, the producer's in today, the producer's in." Right, are you nervous? I say, "Oh, not really." Well, why not? Well, because he's not paid for a ticket. Do you know what I mean? Like, I- obviously, I really respect my producer, Paul Hendy, and,
yeah,
and Emily. I really respect them, and Brad, the director. But really, you should be doing the same job every day. And
yeah,
I hate it because, oh, I'm just going to phone it in today. And you think, well, if they phoned in the ticket price, it wouldn't work. So I probably prefer the evening shows,
hmm
just because that's sort of more my what I'm used to.
yeah,
But the morning shows. I'd say the first week of morning shows are always difficult because you've just done your tech and you've had
yeah,
quite late nights, and then you're in at 8 a.m. and all the dancers are there doing star jumps trying to get you
yeah.
to join in, and I'm just trying to have a coffee.
Are you one for joining in? Because I speak from experience that I normally do the vocal warm up, and then when these dancers appear and they go, right, we're now going to do our little warm up. I normally go, oh dear, I have to go and get ready now. Are
Yeah.
you are you a secret hider from the dance warm up?
Well, we all have to do the vocal warm up,
Yeah.
which is great, especially for the morning shows. You've got to sort of wake up. You've got to
hmm
wake your voice up. I'm really physical in Panto in everything I do. I'm really physical, so I don't really join in with their warm up. But at Shrewsbury, I run around the auditorium like 20 or 30 times.
Hmm.
while they're doing that, or while they're doing the vocal warm up. I normally juggle every morning. Um, just I don't usually juggle a huge amount during the show. Like I'll
Yeah.
just do a little bit. Um, but then after this year's Panto, I think I've got a day off and I fly out to Barbados to join a ship,
Hmm.
and I've got to still be on form. So I always juggle, but I don't join in with all the stretching and stuff. But I do a little warm up. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. As I say, I'm a bit naughty and go, oh, I must go and put my face on when it's
you've got a good
I
excuse
start
though.
off, yeah, I start off, with the little star jumps I'm okay with,
Yeah,
some little stretches, but when they start doing, I don't know, planking or
yeah,
they
no,
start
no,
doing,
no.
no, I have to go and sort my face out then. But
Yeah,
there
yeah.
we go. Enough about me. It was about you, Tommy, because you've had a fantastic career in Panto. And as I said earlier on, everyone raves about you, which is really lovely to see. A young and upcoming comic and a performer in the Panto world. And you're obviously from a line of Panto performers. Your family are all Panto as well, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me dad and me mum. I grew up at as you know, round a holiday park called Searles, and there was always, even if it wasn't a panto, there was always sort of a panto vibe to the shows. There was always slapstick, or my dad would dress up, sort of like a dame or impersonate things, and so I've always grew around there being some sort of panto side. Like my dad would get covered in slosh or gunk one day, so it's always just sort of been in my family really. I've just grew
Yeah.
up around it.
And is it something that you always wanted to do, or was your dad? And if anyone has no idea who we're talking about, Rolo, who's just been added to the Roll of Fame, with yourself and your family,
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
something that you wanted to stay clear of, or are you like, I want to do what dad does and mum does, and so
Um,
on?
some people think that like my family would be really keen on getting me in, and they weren't. They weren't pushy at all. Didn't say like, oh, try and see this. But obviously, say if you're, I don't know how to describe this. Say if your dad is a pilot, for instance, you will
Mhm.
spend a lot of time in airports, and they'll take you, around the airport. So I sort of have the same thing. I spent
Mhm.
a lot of time at the back of theatres, watching comedians, watching jugglers, watching everything. I spent a lot of time at Searles, and I think as a kid, especially, you soak up so much more. So I just sort of went into it.
Yeah.
And then I did my first summer season with the Grumbleweeds, and
Mhm.
then it just happened. It was like at a young age, you don't really know where the next step is, and especially when you're starting off, it's not like you've got your work lined up.
Yeah.
So it was just like, right, I did the summer season. Then I got offered Panto, doing a little, like, I think it's a 5 minute spot. It was with
Mhm.
Andy Eastwood, um, and Mervyn Francis, loads of great acts, really good. And I did my acts like every day in Hunstanton. It had been the year of the summer season, uh, 6, 7 years ago now.
Mhm.
And it was just that sort of natural progression. What I didn't really know if it was right or wrong, but everyone was like, you do your summer season and then you go to Panto at the end of the year. So I've just always
Yeah.
done it. And then I
Yeah.
found the love for it straight away. For everyone to build this magical story, it's just great.
Yeah, it is a special time of year, and I always think that it's something that's very unique to our country, obviously as well.
Mm.
Does anyone ever recognize you when you're on the cruises, or even people who maybe have not seen you before, and then go, "What's this panto thing that you do?" Because I've spoken to people and they have no idea what it is. Have you ever
Yeah.
had that conversation?
So weirdly enough, I've only been at Shrewsbury for 3 years, so it's not a huge amount.
Mm.
I'm not any sort of star, or like I've not been on these massive TV shows or anything. So I had a really bad flight. I can't remember, but at the start of the year, it was like a over 10-hour flight I had to do in the end. And I landed, I turned my airplane mode off, and I got a call saying, "Can you go on tonight?"
Oh.
I was like, "Yeah, okay, of course." So I literally walked in to rehearsal, set up my unicycle. Um, Luckily, I've been on this ship loads, so they sort of knew my show. They knew that, what my vibe is, everything. So anyway, I had a quick nap, got showered, went out to my show. I was like, "Hello!" And these kids somewhere shouted, "Hiya, Billy!" And I just wasn't with it at all. And I thought, oh, they've read, I don't know, but my name's not anywhere near Billy. I was like, I said, "What do you mean, Billy?" And they were like, "Shrewsbury." was like, what on
Oh
earth? Out of all the things in the world, we've got like this ship that holds like 5,000 people on, and we've managed to come together. So I had a little chat with them, but all the Americans in the audience had no idea.
no, no.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
it was just
that's
crazy.
amazing, isn't it? As you say,
Yeah.
what were the chances as such? But you say you're not a big name in it as such now, but you have been there for 3 years now, and you're starting to get that really fantastic partnership, especially with Brad, as you alluded
Mm.
to earlier. What makes you, apart from being maybe put in these places, but what makes you want to keep going back to the same place, Shrewsbury especially?
Yeah, so I did my first year for Evolution
Mm,
at Dunstable. I got offered the job. I was talking this the other day. Um, I would have been I'd have been 17, I think, when he was offering me the job.
mm,
I'd have been 18 at the time. And then I went to Dunstable, and then I signed a 3-year deal. So for anyone who doesn't know, it's like you're offered the next 3 years. Paul didn't say where, but I
yeah,
just knew that it would be, I've got 3 years of Panto. So it was nice to sort of block out that time. So I knew that I was busy. And then I went to Shrewsbury for Beauty and the Beast, which was Paul's first ever time producing Beauty and the Beast,
mm,
which was great because it was such a nice experience for everyone, sort of not to have that like, oh, well, this was what was done in Dunstable. This was what was done in Crawley. There
mhm,
was sort of a fresh idea. So there
yeah,
was no sort of boundaries or, oh, we've got to keep this bit tight because we know this bit can overrun. It was just so cool. Um, and then I spoke to Paul at the end of like he came to the one of the last shows. He was like, "Have you enjoyed it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you want to come back?" And I thought, "Well, yeah, I'd like to come back." Me and Brad got on really well. It just
yeah,
there was no we didn't have to sort of overly look at each other loads or like we just didn't have to try. I got on with Brad so well. And then we
mm.
did Jack and the Beanstalk, and then Paul said, "Do you want to come back?" And that was the end of my 3-year deal. And I've just signed another 3 years for venues I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's been great. I've done 4 years for Evolution, and 3 years at Shrewsbury. It's just been fantastic. It's great, and it's so nice for an act like me to come back to. I travel around all the time,
Mm.
and it's so nice that me and my girlfriend stay down in Shrewsbury for the whole season, and my lady who I stay in her house, she's the nicest lady ever. She's from the States, so it's again, it was so nice for like everyone from all over the world to come together. We really get on, and it's just a great time in Shrewsbury. It's lovely, and
Yeah.
it's such a nice place.
Yeah, yeah, it is a lovely place. And did your lady you stay with no Panto before you joined her as such, like we were alluding to earlier? Did you say American
Uh,
lady?
so she, so her, the lady who I stay with, her daughter, I might get this wrong. Sorry, Maggie, if I do, but her daughter is a lighting designer
Oh,
on the
great.
like Australian Love Island.
Oh,
And then she
interesting.
toured with like Les Mis or a West End musical doing all the lights. So she did sort of know.
Yeah.
She's been in the UK for a while. I think she
Okay.
moved over when she was younger, but I think she sort of knew. But
Mm.
Panto's changed
Yeah.
so much. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think she did sort of know.
Yeah, fair enough. And speaking of Panto changing, this year, am I right? It's Sleeping Beauty. Is that correct for you?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Perfect. And what's different this year for go on, you can do a little picture search. What's different? Because I always think it's very difficult, especially for the comic, to come back with and make it feel fresh sometimes, and
Mm.
and obviously it comes from the scripts as well and the production itself. But what makes it different this year for your character?
Well, to be completely honest, my characters are normally just me. I don't
Yeah.
really have to get into a character or Zen at all. Um, this year, I've seen Paul's version of this because every year he hosts a little party at Canterbury.
Hmm.
And this was not last year, the year before. And I went to see Sleeping Beauty. I just wanted to see the Marlowe Panto. I've never seen it before.
Mm.
And the show is spectacular. Um, we've got a really nice like ghost gag. It's like sort of the crazy like bedroom routine where the beds flip up,
Okay,
which I
cool.
don't think they've seen in Shrewsbury for a long time.
Hmm.
But for me, I can't really change. You can't really change the story to keep it fresh. But there's been so many little changes, and
Hmm.
Paul always finds a really fresh way of changing the story, but keeping it on the same sort of path.
Yeah.
But for me, I just make sure that I've got like a few big juggling bits or comedy bits.
Mhm.
So this year, I won't say anymore, but I'm juggling fire and setting my head on fire.
Oh my goodness, that's quite a major scoop for us to say that. That's a major
Yeah.
thing for
So
you as well.
it was it
Yeah.
was a bit of a weird thing how it came about, but Paul always says like, what do you want to do this year? How are you going to come on? Especially being at Shrewsbury for 3 years, you can't just sort of, well, you can, but I find it weird if I just sort of walked on stage.
Yeah.
Um, so I sent an email to Paul all these ideas, and when I'm writing it, I just sort of go, oh, I could do this, and just getting all like excited. And then I bumped into Paul at the Water Rats Ball. I was like, Paul, how are you? Gave him a hug, and my girlfriend was next to me, and he was like, mate, them ideas are fantastic. That's great. We'll put this in. We'll put this in. We'll put this in. And Rachel was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, she knows all my stuff, and he was like, and then the bit when you set your head on fire, I'll call my guy tomorrow, but we'll make that work. And then I was like, oh dear. I've never done it before, and I was like, this is. So the next day I woke up, was calling like Tweedy and all these different people to help me. But yeah, I did it yesterday for the first time, and it works
Well, you've
fantastically. So
got
it'll
all
be
your
great.
hair still, so it must have been all right.
Yeah, I've got some fireproof hats and stuff that go on, but yeah, it's great. I
I'd have
was a
just
bit worried about
loved
the hair.
I'd have just loved to have heard that first conversation when you were like, and I'll set my head on fire. Just it's amazing.
Yeah,
Just only in the
yeah, it
world of
was
Panto you'd get away with saying something like
yeah.
that.
So that will definitely wake me up on a 10 a.m. show with the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, fair enough. Fantastic. And this is what's exciting. I mean, I follow you and lots of people do follow you online and we enjoy seeing where you juggle in the most random places
Yeah.
um as part of a warm-up for a show or just practice as well. Um for someone who can't even juggle two from side to side, how long has it taken you to get to the top of your sort of juggling career as such with it now?
It's what I never really wanted to be a juggler when I was
Mm,
young. I wanted to be a clown because my dad started off as a clown in the circus when he was 16. He sort of ran
mm,
away with the circus. Um, so my dad said, right, well, if you want to be a circus clown, you've got to see what the hardest part is, which is the build up and pull down, which is putting the tent up and putting it down.
mm,
So my dad, when he was young, worked with this lady called Carol McManus, and she used to own this circus called Circus Mondeo, and they were in my town. So we drove down, watched the build up and the pull down. It's the hardest thing ever.
mm,
I've done it a few times, but it's just horrible. It's such hard work.
yeah.
And so I marched up to her. I'd been really young, like 10. And I was like, can I be your clown next year? She was like, well, you can't because you're still at school. She was like, but um, next year, if you find like, I think it was about a 10-minute routine, 7-minute routine, we'll let you in the show next year for King's Lynn.
Mm,
So I did that for about 3 years. And then was introduced to juggling, of course.
right.
And everyone in the circus can juggle, whether you're a front of house member, whether you're an areas, everyone can juggle three balls. It's just
Mm,
you just learn it.
yeah.
So I just learnt three balls and then did I really got on with a fantastic juggler called Rigoberto. He was just a fast and bang bang. He was really cool looking guy. He was
Mm,
fantastic. His act was really good, great. And I thought, oh, I'd love to do that or something like that. And then sort of learn. And then when I was home from school, I learnt to juggle. I think I first learnt to juggle when I was about 8, but I never
mhm.
took it really seriously. And I think when I was about 13 or 14, I started to practice every day. But even
Yeah.
now, I'm still learning tricks that I haven't done. I don't think you're ever at the top of the game with juggling. It's just an ongoing cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. And I suppose it's one of those things you want to keep fresh and keep exciting to the
Yeah.
audiences. And as I say, we enjoy watching your warm-ups online and so on. And especially when you're like this little tiny room and you're like, I can still do it,
Yeah.
it's amazing still. But let's get back to Panto now, and talk about bits and pieces you've done in the past. Is there a certain character? I know you say that a lot of the time you're playing yourself as such.
Yeah.
But is there one character that you're like, oh, he's my favorite? I've enjoyed working as him.
Um, Not to talk for every comic, but um, I think most comics would say Buttons.
Hmm.
But I've never played Buttons as of yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'd love to play Buttons. But I always enjoy, the pathos parts in the shows. Because it's just a part where, when me or Brad or say the comic and the Dane walk out, everyone goes, "Oh, well, here he is." You're sort of part of them.
Yeah.
And I think uh, when you sort of break and you're not like, smiling or I'm running around or anything,
Hmm.
and there's part in the show where say, I don't know, she's not got her ticket to the ball, or
Hmm.
Aladdin is not going to make it, and everyone's, there's a part, when Jack sells the cow for the beans, and
Mm.
everyone gets upset with him. I think everyone goes, "Oh no, it's this is serious now."
Yeah.
Even the comic and the Dame were upset.
Mm.
So, but for me, it would be Buttons, and I'm sure I'll play him one day. But yeah, that would be my dream role.
Yeah, I'm sure you will play him one day. And as you say, it's quite nice, especially, I'll talk from a performer point of view for a moment, that it's nice when you get to have those moments, isn't it, Tommy?
Mm.
That you're not just running around or getting slapped in the face with
Yeah,
mush or whatever, it's just one of those things that's quite nice, you say, to show that I can do something else as well,
yeah.
and then
And
the
for the audience,
audience.
it's more of a
Yeah,
surprise for them. Like
yeah.
me and Brad and the guy who played Danton in Beauty and the Beast, we did this slosh routine,
Hmm.
and I fell over. It got a big laugh, but they sort of expect me to fall over because I'm running around all the time. And then Brad fell over. He kept nearly slipping over, and he fell over, and bang! They were crying of laughter because
Yeah,
it's the unexpected. They think, "Oh,
yeah,
Brad's not going to fall over because he's got all his makeup on, he's got a dress on." You need to shock them every year, and I
yeah.
think it's just little things like that. If the comic and the Dame are always going like, happy and lucky and taking the mick out of any serious routines, and
Hmm.
then someone really, messes up in the story, and you go, "Oh well," and everyone goes back into their characters. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, perfect, perfect. We are at that point where I like to get a little bit of gossip from a
Hmm.
past show, Tommy. Is there any sort of secrets? Nothing major. I'm not talking news of the world front page or anything, but is there any sort of little stories that you can tell us from your Panto past that you're like, oh
Oh,
yeah, that was an interesting show or whatever? I put you on the spot
do
a bit.
you know what? There'll be loads of these. I remember my dad and me were in Panto together at Scunthorpe, and we shared with a guy called Jake, it was Aladdin, and he must have been the Emperor or something. And there was this
Mm.
part in the show where we all had like a big bit off, where it seems loads, but it was probably about 5 minutes. So we sat back, I was doing some work or whatever, having a cup of tea, looking at my script, and there was a part where my dad needed to be on stage,
Mm.
and so he'd always leave it to the last minute, and me and Jake thought, all right, we're going to try and stop him on his way. He used to run. I don't know why, he just would always leave it last minute. So like I'd lock the door and he'd go try and open it and go in his run. It'd be fine. Anyway, one day we locked the door. We've got like a bench out. We've got this out, this out, this out. All these things to block him on his way. And the end of the song finishes, and my dad's still there, like, I don't know, having a little cup of tea or whatever, and he's dressing down. And I just go, Wishy, Wishy. And we all look at my dad and he goes, "Oh dear." And does it calmly. And he goes, "I'm just on my way." And he sings a little song. And it was a huge auditorium. It was the Bath Halls in Scunthorpe. It's huge. And he
Mm.
walked all the way around singing a song, walked around and went, "Hiya, gang." And everyone was like, "Oh, is that a new bit?" And he went, "To be honest with you, mate, I'm still in my dressing room." It
That's a
is
great. That's great.
yeah, it's
Um,
fantastic. There's loads of things
Brilliant.
that have gone wrong. Um I remember I believe it was Dunstable,
Mm.
I want to say. I think it was. We were all waving, and the goals came down, and then the cloth behind came down, and they were screaming, "Wow, wow!" I was thinking, "Geez, they really liked us today." What actually happened was the like sparks that came up. They sort of go at an angle to come back a bit, but they were left on for too long, and it was at Scunthorpe. This is where it was. It was at Scunthorpe, not at Dunstable. Again, Scunthorpe, and it was hitting the cloth, and the cloth just started to melt.
Oh
Right.
no.
So everyone was shouting fire, but obviously
Yeah.
we just were hearing them screaming. A fireman got up and chucked a glass of water at it,
Oh.
but at the same time, our stage manager hit it with a fire extinguisher, and everyone cheered the bloke with the pint because they
Oh,
thought this little pint glass of water had taken down this huge cloth.
that is
But
so
yeah,
funny. And you guys were like, "Oh, this is a brilliant
I
show.
thought,
We
yeah,
think
they're,
they'll
they're good for a 10:30 show.
in today." Oh,
Yeah.
that is great, Tommy. See, these all these little stories. is what I think makes Panto, for at least my season. You get all these little moments. The main thing, as I always say on these couple of chats, is seeing the audience enjoying your work and getting into theatre. But there's also all these fantastic little memories, that we build from our side. Because, maybe if people aren't aware, we do these shows nearly, 70, 100 times or whatever over the course of
Yeah.
the run. Um, and it does get a little samey, but as you say, you try and keep it fresh and exciting. But those little things are the ones that you remember, aren't they, Tommy?
Yeah.
Things
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. The best one for me is the song sheet every time. When you
Mhm.
get these four kids up, you don't know if they're going to talk.
Yeah,
If they don't talk, you don't want to seem like like an adult. You could sort of have a bit of banter with an adult, but you don't want to seem like you're being horrible to this kid.
yeah.
Anything can happen. I've had it before. I've said, "Hi, mate, what's your name?" And he's gone, I really need a wee. I've been like, "Okay, off you go. Just come
Bye
back in a
bye.
bit." But it just sort of I remember my first song sheet. Well, it was years ago, but I was really nervous, and I was like, "Right, it's got to be funny." But you have just got to take a step back and go, "Hi, mate." They are all the kids on there will be funny.
Yeah,
When you ask them what their favorite character is, and they go like, "Oh, it was the wolf."
yeah,
You think the wolf? He was in the ghost gag. It was only him for
yeah,
5 minutes. I put my heart and soul into this, mate.
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just got to sit back and relax and let them do the work.
But I think partly because I mean I've just done a tour and
Yeah,
I always feel lucky to do the song sheet and so on. And I think that's the part that, at least I feel like I can enjoy the most because you've done your bits, you've done the story the
yeah,
best you can. And as you say, it's full on impro because you don't know what you're gonna get.
no,
And I think that's exciting. And I don't know about you, Tommy. I think that's something that keeps it fresh every night for us
yeah,
again.
yeah. It's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up. Depends on me and Brad get four kids up.
Mm.
Sometimes, people will get a little bit scared, or so we'll end up with two. Sometimes we had one that shouted out there. It was like, "He's my brother," and then Brad was like, "Stop shouting, come on up." So we got
Yeah.
another one up. But you just never know. The song sheet is, and I think the audience love it. It's like part
Yeah.
of them have gone up to represent them, so it's great.
Yeah. I mean, the other week we picked four and we ended up with seven. So I decided to leave the comic and just go and sit in the audience because that was more of them on stage than us, but they love
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sort of stuff,
yeah.
it's exciting. Tommy, what is your sort of, I know you said buttons earlier, but is there a dream panto that you still want to do? I mean, we're getting quite a lot of titles now that weren't traditionally panto, like Little Mermaid, Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Or is there old school ones like Mother Goose, Humpty Dumpty? Is there one that you are like, oh, I'd really like to do that, apart from Cinderella,
Um,
as you said?
so I've done Cinderella, but I was just the juggler.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of Aladdin. I think I've done three Aladdins. Uh, I think it would be Cinderella to
Mhm.
have that moment, with buttons, and it'd be great to get my act in, the ballroom routine.
Mm.
But I'd really, really like Dick Whittington.
Mm.
I think it's a great story. I don't think it's used as much nowadays.
No, no, you don't
I
see it a
love
lot
that
now.
story. I really love Aladdin.
Hmm.
There's obviously it's had to change at the moment, but Paul, I've watched his Aladdin uh recently, and it's fantastic. It's
Mm.
really, really good. It's won loads of awards. The one he did it for the first time. I was the last one to do the old version, and then he did it at Canterbury and changed it all up, and it was just fantastic. But still kept, the poignant part of the story. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just fantastic. But I think it would be Cinderella and Dick Whittington probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you say, two titles that years ago were, if you look on the archive, that were
Yeah,
done everywhere and not really. Dick Whittington probably even a little bit more than Aladdin now, but we're starting to get the titles for next year, and it looks like Aladdin's making a little bit of a comeback, which is lovely
yeah, which is
if it's
nice.
done correctly and so on.
Mm.
And we've got to move with our times, but yeah, who knows, Tommy? What's next for you? I'm sure you probably have a link, Klim, but I'm obviously not going to push you for that now. But I hope you get to be Buttons and Dick Whittington at some point as well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the near future. Tommy, we've nearly come to the end of our cup of chat. I can't believe how quick it's gone. Because I could talk to you all day because you've had such a fantastic career already. Lots more still to come for you, I know. And it's so nice, as I keep saying, to read all these fantastic reviews and people saying how much they enjoy your performance and so on, and your families. You know, I mustn't forget all your family as well, who are, as I say, was put into our Hall of Fame earlier this year.
Yeah.
So don't forget us as such that
No, we
you're on
won't.
your Hall of Fame. Is there, though, to finish off with, it can be a person from the past or the present that you would love to work with or would have loved to have worked with?
Um, what a question. There's so many.
Yeah.
But I would probably say um it was a guy called Ken Goodwin. He was a comedian. He started off as a George Formby tribute.
Mm.
And he used to play in goal. I don't know what was it, if it's like he wanted to be a goalkeeper, but the goalpost fell forward. And back in then, when he was younger, the goals were made out of like solid wood. And
Mm.
he dived forward and the goalpost fell down and it hit his hands and just
Oh,
crushed them.
oh,
But he had loads
interesting.
of gigs lined up and he couldn't play the ukulele. So he just told a load of like really bad jokes, really bad, but he laughed hysterically at them. And he was really successful. You know, he did all the Sunday night at the Palladiums. He was one of the best comics on the Comedians. So yeah, I'd love to have worked with him. And he
Yeah.
did loads of pantos. I think he did Robinson Crusoe a fair few times, Mother Goose loads. Back in them days, Babes in
Mm.
the Wood, I think he did a
Yeah.
long time. And there is some footage of him in Panto. And he was just a great comic and really nice from what I've heard. I never got the chance to meet him, but
Mm.
yeah, I'd love to work with Ken Goodwin. He was just fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And is Tommy gonna be in the panto world for as long as you can? Is that your sort of, some people are like, oh no, I don't mind doing it for a few years, or oh, some people, maybe do it once. You've obviously, this is not you, but some people
Yeah,
do it once and go, oh, never again. Or is it something
yeah.
that actually you look forward to every year to take part in?
I do look forward to it. It's a hard thing, Panto.
Mm,
Everyone goes, "Oh, it's really hard." You've got
yeah,
to, you know, in a week you've got to get your show together, and then you've got to do a tech. And for Evolution shows, the tech's really, really heavy. We've got all these portals at the side that light up. And we've got an orchestra in the pit, so it's
fantastic. Yeah,
a hard job. But I've always enjoyed hard work.
yeah.
I always work hard, for my act all the time. But I am definitely going to be in it for the next 3 years because I'm contracted to it.
There you go.
Um, so I'll be with Evolution. But no, I'd love to be in Panto for as long as I can, really.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I've spoken to you separately on this, before, that your dad inspired me, and I'm sure you're
Mm.
now inspiring younger generations, and they will want to go, I want to be like him on that stage. So keep up your good work, keep up entertaining. Send our wishes to Brad because he helped us a lot with setting everything up for you and your dad and your sister and mum and so on. So
Yeah, yeah.
have a fantastic season. Where can we see you one final time this year?
I'm at Shrewsbury at the Theatre 7 from the 29th of November until I believe the 12th of January. What a
Nice
run.
long
And then I'm
run.
doing a one-man show at Shrewsbury
Mhm.
on the 26th of January at 5 p.m., I believe, if that's
Look at
correct.
you. Look at you with all your times and everything. That's brilliant.
I don't know how I remembered that, but I did somehow. I'm awful with times, but yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's right.
fantastic. Well, I hope to be able to come and see you at the end of your run because we just go into the new year. So I'm going to try my best to come and see you
Definitely,
into the
mate.
new year. But all the best. Keep in contact with us at Panto Archive. And if any of you want to see what Tommy has been up to throughout his fantastic career already, go on to the Panto Archive, click on Hall of Fame, and you'll find all the details on there. Thank you, Tommy J.
Thank you very much, mate. It's a pleasure.
And we'll see you all again for another cup chat very soon. Bye bye now.
See you.